Welcome back to week 3 of the Whole Life Challenge players. This week, it's feet meets whole body mobility. You would be shocked to find out how related your feet and ankle mobility are to your body's ability to move through space. So today, we're going to do a roll out of the feet, and we're going to check in with your ability to do a deadlift squat or a sumo type of squat from sole to squat. You can use a yoga tune-up ball, or you can use a tennis ball for this. Any type of pliable ball will do, and the more grip it has, the better. Your squat is a wide-legged squat with a slightly turned out foot, or slightly turned out hip. So this would be the equivalent of a sumo type of deadlift squat. So your feet are wider than hip distance apart, and you start by having brain over heart over cervix, so that head, rib cage, pelvic alignment, active glutes. Try to pull the floor apart. Bring your shoulders into an overhead position. Pull the floor apart as you sit down. Your knees are trying to move away from one another in order for you to feel a stretch across the floor of your pelvis and those inner thighs. The spine remains aligned, going as deep as you can, and then up you go. So hopefully you felt how deep you went and any of those connections that I was mentioning. To start, you want to bring, let's start with the left foot. It'll probably be easiest for you to see that. Left ball, or rather left foot, and the deep instep. So the instep of your foot typically is where you have the tarsal bones, where the tarsals meet the metatarsals. And I'm standing next to osteo, but you should stand next to a wall for stability. Happily, he's here to hold my hand, even though he has no connective tissue, and he's kind of a disaster, but nonetheless, we got it. So at first, just letting your foot mold its way over the ball. We're going to track the ball across 3 different primary arches of your foot. That is the inner arch, called the medial arch, the outer arch, called the lateral arch, and then the arch that goes across the ball of your foot, essentially, called the transverse arch. So after resting for a few moments, what I'd like you to do is to bring the yoga tune-up ball towards the innermost portion of the arch. It's really where the big toe, the long bone of the big toe, resides. And you'll press into the ball and then try to shear or scratch the ball across that innermost surface of the arch. So I'm pressing down, I slide my foot to the left, and the yoga tune-up ball actually tractions the skin and the fascial tissues of the foot in the opposite direction. So you're going to feel a slight bit of burn or heat. You press down and you shear and feel that amazing sense of movement within the matrix of fluids in the foot. Then to the outer arch, so I'm pivoting around so you can see. So it's the pinky side of the foot. Again, I press down, and I'm going to move, now I move my foot towards the right so that the therapy ball can pluck at the pinky side of the foot. This is all in slow motion. Lean down, press in, foot shifts to the right, and the ball tractions the tissues to the left. So this puts also the ankle into what's called a forced eversion position, or pronation, 3 times through. And then coming to the transverse arch. So the toes should just hang over. And now I'm moving in slow motion, going through what are called the metatarsal phalangeal joints, and allowing the therapy ball to scratch and annoy, essentially, but in a nice way, annoy pressures into each of these major joints that ends up giving me the push off in walking. So about 3 full passes, back and forth, which is going to really be like 6 times. And then finally, place your heel on the ground, and this is called big toe on the go. So my big toe exclusively is extended by the ball. From here, my right foot steps forward. This is called big toe on the go, and I'm just going to create a little bit of an oscillation, attempting to step forward and increase the hinge at that left big toe. So the movement, the ability for the big toe to move is directly connected to force production that goes all the way up into your glutes. Your glutes really are the primary anchor for your squat. So this is a way to improve the stability of the buttock activity and may result in a better squat for you. All right, then step off the ball and just for a moment feel a comparison in the 2 feet. It should feel like there's a lot more circulation, even a spreading of that left foot, and change sides. First, planting the ball into that tarsal region where the sort of rice cake bones or the rice cracker bones of your foot meet the long bones of your foot. And then going through those arches, first the medial arch, holding onto the wall as necessary, or some random anatomy skeleton. Put pressure in, scrape and scratch. My friend Katie Bowman, I think she calls this the slooge or the schmooge, or I can't remember what she calls this move. That's pretty funny. Schmear. She calls it schmearing, which I think is very appropriate. So we're actually shearing the tissues, which means they transition over each other, but it feels like you're taking a big glop of cream cheese and just spreading it on a bagel. Then to the other side, to the lateral arch. So the medial arch is in the inner foot, the lateral arch is on the outside of the foot. And it's that 5th metatarsal. Although I'm not just getting the 5th, I'm also getting the 3rd, 4th, and 5th here each time and creating that forced eversion. When I'm on the medial arch, I'm creating a forced supination or a forced inversion. So about 3 times through, and of course you can do this longer. And then finally the transverse arch. Letting your toes drape and then slowly shifting from the 1st metatarsal to the 5th. And one of the things I like to do while I'm working on my feet is breathing deeply, of course, and trying to sense exactly where the therapy ball is at all times. If you are not used to massaging your feet probably don't feel particularly awesome right now. It could be stingy, it could feel really stiff. Different areas of the foot can have more tonicity, more tension than others. You might have some nerve issues, neuromas, or plantar fasciitis. If any of those things are a part of your foot matrix, lighten the load. You can lighten the load by leaning into the other foot and just having less pressure altogether. Then finally, the big toe. Big toe on the go. You see that big toe mounted up on the foot, and then just a little fake step. So my left foot is in front, and I lower and lift the right heel, creating a little bit more movement in that 1st metatarsal phalangeal joint, that big toe push off thingy-majig. This always feels amazing. And then finally, step off and separate your feet. So I'll pivot, give you another angle here. Feet wider than the lungs, head, rib cage, pelvis, deep trunk engagement, externally rotating and flexing the shoulders overhead, pushing the ground apart, the knees slide away from each other, and sinking as low as I can possibly go without changing the spinal alignment. And now I'm feeling a lot more in my right inner thigh and my left inner thigh, which is what I was hoping for. That the action through the feet from sole to squat improved my whole body mobility, and I hope your mobility just improved too. Now go out and squat everywhere. Build that strength. See you next week.